Hello everyone! For today's video, ipapakita ko sa inyo yung naging proposal defense ko dun sa aking second doctorate degree, yung PhD English ko. So, ito yung actual recording ko nung ako ay nag-proposal defense. So, when you say proposal defense, ito yung chapter 1 to 3. Dito, ipapakita ko yung mga tips and tricks na ginawa ko, how I come up with my presentation. So this is just the part 1 kasi dun sa part 2 na gagawin ko sa aking video, nandun naman yung final oral defense ko. Nandun na yung mga findings and recommendations na nagawa ko dun sa aking study. And to begin with, ikukwento ko sa inyo why I come up with this study. So, I came up with this study because I was really interested in knowing how DepEd is writing their research papers. So, I was too interested or fascinated with the basic education research agenda. And for my end goal here is to find ways on how teachers could write research proposals that are mostly katanggap-tanggap sa funding. Kaya po, yun yung naging title ko. Pero i-explain ko naman siya later dun sa aking sample oral defense na i-attach ko dito sa aking discussion. So first, I will be giving you some reminders before you have your oral defense. Siyempre, you must always remember that the evaluation of oral examination is based on your presentation. So, dapat yung presentation nyo ay concise lamang and ideally 20 to 30 minutes lamang po yung content ng inyong mga slides as well as your explanation. And also, the answers to the question from the examining committee will also be the basis for your evaluation. Paano mo ba sinagot yung kanilang mga katanungan? And also, be well prepared for your presentation. So, hindi lamang academically, kasi you must be mentally and physically prepared. On my case, kasi inabot pa ako noong 2021 ng online defense. So, wala pa nung F to F na oral defense. So, hindi ako pumupunta sa school, but I am always, yun na nga, online whenever we have our classes. Kasi part ako ng flexible learning. I enrolled in a flexible learning in my second PhD kasi kasagsagan po yun ng pandemic. So I started my second PhD 2020 and I graduated June, I think June or July, first week of July 2022. So it took me ilang semesters din, starting ng June, July, 2020, 2021, and 2022. So, ilang semesters din siya, including the summer classes. So, yes, we must be mentally prepared. Pero dun sa case ko, parang I sleep less kasi I focused more on the preparation of my slides. Kaya, medyo nag-outline ako ng mga sunod-sunod or sequencing para hindi naman ako malito whenever nasa actual presentation na po ako. Kasi in the defense, kasi one shot lang talaga siya, walang take 1, walang take 2 because the panelists are there already listening to my discussion. And yes, physically prepared, though online yung presentation ko before, I must be physically prepared. Pero dun sa naging demo ko or naging defense ko, you can see I look so tired. I look so less energetic unlike my previous presentations. Okay, so one tip lang din, try to be well rested and focused before your oral defense para lagi kang ready to answer the questions of the panelists para hindi ka rin mag-panic kasi I always have that para ako nagka-cram kasi nga po I have less preparation and I felt that I am not physically prepared. I'm too exhausted knowing that hindi ako nag-file ng leave, hindi rin ako nakapag file, yun na nga po yung study leave and others. Kaya talagang I have to juggle my work in the division office and my preparation for this defense. So, yung ikatlo ko pong reminder, in your preparation, don't try to memorize all the studies cited in your thesis or your dissertation kasi napakadami po talaga na authors and findings na magsusupport dun sa study mo. But mostly the pattern of the slides, hindi naman nire-require na ilagay mo lahat. And mostly din, mga key literature lang o yung pinakang naging basis ng study mo. And on my presentation, parang I focus on the theoretical underpinnings lang. Makikita nyo later. You must know the details of that few studies that form the basis of your investigation to support why you come up with the study, why you come up with the title, why you come up with the statement of the problem and the paradigm. So yun po yung ating mga magiging basis. Then also, you need to be familiar with the basic assumptions, the framework, and the ones that I mentioned, the paradigm, kasi dun po iikot yung iyong mga methodology as part of your proposal. Kasi dun sa proposal mo, parang andun na siya, congested na yung chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So, dapat alam mo na yung iikot ng study mo, alam mo na kung ano yung gagawin mo, how will you gather data, how will you secure permission, how will the study would flow, may timeline na, and also kung may proposal, dapat may budgeting ka na rin ng time constraints and other aspects related to it. So another, you need to have a deep understanding of the nature of your research problem. Dapat alam mo yung pasikot-sikot ng study mo kasi that would test yung iyong preparedness. Dahil if you would be asked by your panelists, why did you come up with the study? How will you dig deeper on it? Napakadami nilang pwedeng maging question, which will I will also prepare another video, for example, oral defense question. Kasi I had been paneling in the senior high school, in college, and specifically on state university and private institutions, research conferences. Kaya po talagang medyo I have a lot of background na and experience when it comes to paneling. So, ililista ko rin siya as part of my next presentation, yung mga tips and tricks and some possible answers to your oral defense key questions na pwedeng ibato ng panel sa inyo. And then, yung last ko na reminder, your presentation is evaluated in terms of content and clarity of the style. So, dito yung presentation ko, I would suggest dapat hindi maraming words ang nakaproject sa inyong slide. Naka-outline lang siya kung maaari nga naka-either tabular, graphical, or procedural lang yung process on how you come up with the slides. Hindi po pupunuin mo yun ng mga babasahin, tapos you will just read it line by line when you present. So hindi po ganun ang oral defense. You have to get the keywords only and you try to expound para hindi naman po nagmumukha na hindi ka familiar sa study mo and nagiging best in reading ka lamang po when you present your work. So ito, yung presentation na ipapakita ko sa inyo ay yung actual na presentation ko nung nag-oral defense ako. So ito po ay proposal defense pa lang. Tingnan ninyo how I come up with the greeting, paano ko bumati dun sa mga panelists. How did I open the presentation? Paano ko pinakilala yung mga parts dun sa aking study, yung mga paradigm, yung mga process flow, and supporting details na meron ako. So, nakabullets lang siya mostly and mga illustration. And how did I end up with catchy statements para naman masabi ng mga panelists that I really prepared for the presentation. But actually, honestly, it is not the best presentation that I had presented ever. So may mga mas okay akong presentation. It just so happened that talagang dito sa PhD English ko, kinareer ko yung pag-i-English ko kasi that is one of the challenge ko rin sa sarili ko that I have to explain, to expound my thoughts in English. So I want to test if I could have that oral fluency. So, tingnan nyo later kung paano ko mapanindigan yung aking naging presentation. So, nosebleed ako dun and tingnan nyo na lang later kung naging effective ba siya if you would be my panel. So, hindi ko na dyan isinama yung mga question or and answering portion namin sa panel. I just focus on the presentation nung aking defense. So with that, I hope you enjoy watching the presentation that I prepared and hope this would also help you in the preparation of your own oral defense. So enjoy watching. Good morning to our distinguished respected members of the panel, Dr. Bacon C. Condes, Dr. Luis Miguel P. Saludes, Dr. Amelita O. Balagtas, Dr. Claudia Odette J. Ayala, and Dr. Benilda N. Villegas, and greetings and appreciation to my research advisor, Dr. Felix Berto M. Mercado, and to Ms. Princess. So once again, I am Ms. Jennifer M. Uestar from the Schools Division of Lucena City, and I am blessed and grateful for this opportunity to present my dissertation proposal in partial fulfillment for the requirements leading to Doctor of Philosophy in English. My working title is Decoding Communicative Intent, Rhetoric Moves, and Meta-Discourse in DepEd-funded research paper. So here are some of the few backgrounder why I decided to delve on this topic. First, I work with DepEd, and one of my key result area is in the field of research and development. Considering my readings on the different findings on research writing, I come up with an idea of delving into the structure of research papers. So following the guidelines stipulated in the adoption of basic education research agenda under DepEd 39 series of 2016, since BERA is the research management guidelines used in the Department of Education. So next, this study is in line with the government's mandate. The Department of Education must conduct educational research and studies that will serve as the foundation for necessary reforms and policy development in promoting the culture of research in various governance levels, so be it central, regional, division, or in school. And last, according to the data gathered from RO Policy Planning and Research Division of DepEd Calabarzon, so no study is yet dealing with the analysis of the rhetorical moves, discourse markers, and communicative intent in writing research under Basic Education Research Fund. So this study is necessary to be conducted as a prime mover in determining research gaps and finding solutions in improving the style in writing research proposals and completed papers. So this is my dissertation proposal, and I consider this as a working paper, and I will be open for your comments and suggestions for its improvement of the contents. And as you will notice on my manuscript, there would be parts of my presentation here, especially in the theoretical framework and method section that has been modified and added. So, however, it is not reflected on the manuscript you have right now, since I already submitted the paper December 10. So I just added up some parts which is not reflected on the manuscript. To continue. For the purpose or the research questions, what are the rhetoric structures? So first, the study will analyze the rhetorical moves, meta-discoursal markers, and communicative intent of the completed action and basic research papers under Basic Education Research Fund. So the researcher agrees that identifying these research components would provide light to the writing styles conducted by depth ed researchers. So specifically, this study will attempt to answer the following questions. So number one, what are the rhetorical structures of the basic and action research articles or papers under Department of Education's Basic Education Research Fund in terms of 1.1 moves, 1.2 steps, 1.3 keywords, 1.4 length, and 1.5 tense. Number two, what are the meta-discoursal markers found in the birth, basic, and action research articles as to research themes indicated in depth ed order number 43, series of 2015, 2.1 textual, 2.1.1 transitions, 2.1.2 frame markers, 2.1.3 endophoric markers, 2.1.4 evidentials, and 2.1.5 code glosses. 2.2 interpersonal, 2.2.1 hedges, 2.2.2 boosters, 2.2.3 attitude markers, 2.2.3 engagement markers, and 2.2.4 self-mentions. What communicative intent is derived from the moves and steps identified in the birth, basic, and action research? For the theoretical framework, the primary theory involved in this study is genre theory. It deals with the way of thinking about how language is influenced by its context. Genres emerge from the context in which writers find themselves. And another theory is the speech act theory of meta-discourse. So this theory describes meta-discourse as indicators of expositive elocutionary acts, and then provides a taxonomy of meta-discursive functions and forms. So last is the theory of meaning and communicative intent, in which Rice believed that semantic concepts such as word and phrase meaning were ultimately founded on the sender's meaning, which in turn was based on the speaker's purpose or the intentions. What he intended to be the study of the ontology of semantic conceptions has instead been interpreted as a description of communicative intentions, mental causes of communicative acts, and those that the receiver must comprehend for the deepening of or the comprehending of communicative act to be successful. So in this summary, this theories dealt with the message or how the message is conveyed depending on the purpose and considering the context of the situation. So since then, genre analysis has been the focus of various studies, thus arriving at different rhetorical frameworks in analyzing the structure of research abstracts, introductions, literature review, methodologies, discussion, and conclusion. So, in relation to this study, the context referred to the Department of Education researchers' way of structuring basic education research funded papers. So, thus, the following frameworks shall be applied in the genre analysis. So, as you can see on the presentation, in the analysis of the research paper's abstract, horizontal moves will be adopted. So, as I reiterate, move one is creating a research space with step one, establishing the field. Step two, preparing for present research. Step three, introducing present research with move two, describing research procedure. Step one, presenting the data. Step two, describing the methods. And then we have move three, summarizing principal results. And move four, evaluating results with step one, drawing conclusions. Step two, comparing results. And step three, indicating discussions. In analyzing the research article's introduction, swales, cars, or create a research space model shall be adopted. So cars include move one, establish a research territory, move two, establish a niche, and move three, occupy the niche. In reviewing the literature, one's framework will be used. So this include move one, establishing one of the territories of one's research with strategies. Strategy A, surveying the non-research related phenomena or knowledge claims. Strategy B, claiming centrality. Strategy C, surveying the research related phenomena. Then we have move two, creating a research niche in response to move one. With strategies, strategy A, creating or counterclaiming. Strategy B, gap indicating. Strategy C, asserting confirmative claims about knowledge or research practices surveyed. Strategy D, asserting the relevancy of surveyed claims to the one's research. Strategy E, abstracting or synthesizing knowledge claims to establish a theoretical position or framework. And move three, occupying the research niche by announcing. With strategy A, research aims focuses, research questions, or hypotheses. Then strategy B, theoretical positions or theoretical frameworks. We have strategy C, research design or process, and interpretations of terminology used in the study. In the analysis of the methodology section, the structure of LIM 2006 shall be adopted. It has move one, describing data collection procedures, with step 1A, describe the location of the sample. Step 1B, describe the size of the sample population. Step 1C, indicating data size. Step 1B, describe the sampling technique. Then we have step 2, recount steps in data collection. Step 3A, highlight advantages of using sample. Then we have step 3B, demonstrate sample, and we have moved to delineating procedures for measured variables. We have step 1, present an overview of the design. Step 2A, specify measurement items. Step 2B, define variables. Step 2C, describe method and measuring variables. Step 3A, cite research to justify methods. Step 3B, highlight acceptability of method. Then we have move 3, elucidating data analysis procedure, with step 1, relate analysis procedure. Step 2, justify analysis procedure. And step 3, preview results. In the discussion analysis, swales and fixed framework or moves will be adapted. It has 5 moves, wherein move 1, background information. Move 2, summarizing and reporting key results. Move 3, commenting on key results. Move 4, stating limitations of the study. And move 5, making recommendations for future implementation and future research. So in the analysis of the conclusion, Young and Allison's framework shall be used. It has 3 moves with corresponding steps. First, move 1, summarizing the study. Move 2, evaluating the study. Step 1, indicating significance or advantage. Step 2, indicating limitations. Step 3, evaluating methodology. Move 3, deductions from the research, with step 1, recommending further research. Step 2, drawing pedagogic implications. So next, in terms of meta-discourse markers, Highland's interpersonal model of meta-discourse will be used in the study because it provides comprehensive categories and subcategories of meta-discourse. So this meta-discourse classification model divides meta-discourse markers into 2. The first one is interactive, or the textual, and the other is interactional meta-discourse. So it has subcategories such as transitions, endophoric markers, frame markers, evidential, code glosses, hedges, attitude markers, boosters, engagement markers, and self-mentions. Then finally, to analyze the communicative intent of each move and steps found in the corpus of the study, pause framework shall be used. So the objective of each move must be considered while analyzing the communicative purpose of the movements and stages chosen from the corpus. So in relation to the theory presented, the genre theory, speech act theory of meta-discourse, and theory of meaningful communicative intent. So the following frameworks given by those authors had become the basis. So based on the framework cited, it can also be deduced that the authors developed frameworks were rooted in the frameworks of Swale, so that's with the card, and the model of Batia. So the IMRD. So they tend to adopt or modify Swale's and Batia's structuring depending on the type of journal, field of specialization, language use, and publication policies of the research paper. So for the research design, the study will employ genre analysis. So as stated by Musakamis and Scenario 2015, it was supported stating that the method or this method, genre analysis, is one of the most common for analyzing a text's rhetorical structure. That's why it has been used. Researchers define genre differently. So according to Bhatia, Holmes, Highland, Martin, Miller, Wales, so they are the ones who had given different definitions of genre. So among the many definitions, uh, Swales described the method by its communicative process, structure, and intended audiences, and regarded this as the most comprehensive and widely accepted in the tradition. So similarly, genre analysis as described by Casau-Pitart 2017 refers to the process that described as communicative purposes that establish the standards for what is generally acceptable in terms of how content should be written or spoken, what issues it will address, and how it can do so. And going back to the study to do this, the study will employ moves and step analysis. As Shaw 2014 supported, it is necessary to concentrate on the content, form, and functionality. So according to Baskerman 2014 and Uzun 2016, move analysis is typically conducted as a qualitative investigation based on the examination of repetitive patterns in text. So the researcher infers that and proposes specific moves and steps for each unit during the analysis after dividing the text into units based on their rhetorical functions. So the frequency of moves will be counted and percentages will be reported to compare corpora. So previously, many genre analysis and rhetorical organization studies on research articles from various disciplines have been established. So some concentrated on the entire RAs, while others concentrated on specific sections of the RAs. For the source of language data, the study's corpus will include completed research from birth cycle, so basic education research upon cycle 1, 2016, to birth cycle 5 in 2020. So cycle 1 was completed 2016, cycle 2, 2017, cycle 3, 2018, cycle 4, 2019, and cycle 5, 2020. 40 completed research papers in publishable format from the 5 basic education research upon cycles will randomly be chosen. So topics will be segregated from depth ed research themes comprising teaching and learning, child protection, governance, human resource development, and cross-cutting themes of disaster risk reduction and management, gender and development, and inclusive education. So the following table or the next table will be showing or presenting the list of research themes in the study's corpus. And then to elaborate, the corpora will be listed from DepEd Calabarzon's completed basic education research upon studies comprising of 21 divisions. So in coordination with the Policy, Planning, and Research Division of Regional Office Calabarzon, a copy of the completed research articles and abstracts shall be requested. So for the profile of the corpora under source of language data. So for the equal distribution of research themes published in basic education research fund, comparable number of corpora will be analyzed to validate the findings. And the table shows that completed papers of one action and one basic research will be chosen per basic education research fund cycle at random from each research team from DepEd, lifted from DepEd order number 43 series of 2015. So for ease of reference and to maintain the confidentiality of the writers of the chosen research, each paper will be randomly coded from R1 research 1 to R40. So since we have 40 papers to analyze, so that is to establish a corpus. Then each of the sections of the research paper will then be copied and pasted into its own file, and they will be randomly coded, as what I have stated, from R1 to R40. So the materials or the papers will also be chosen considering the FAIR principle of Wilkinson et al. 2016, which is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Okay, so this shows the sampling design and procedures. This study will apply the proposed sampling where the researcher chooses the corpus based on its classification and adherence to the theme. So the corpus must be a study under Basic Education Research Fund and either a basic or an action research. So they must be classified depending on the themes set by the Department of Education as stipulated in Depth Order 43 series of 2015. So for reiteration, regional offices policy, planning and research division and division offices, planning and research section, and education program specialists in charge of research shall be requested to assist the researcher in selecting the research articles according to classification and themes. So as reiterated as well, as I had mentioned earlier, the paper will be randomly coded from R1 to R4 to establish a corpus, and each section of the research paper will then be copied and pasted on its own file, and they will be randomly coded from 1 to 40. Next, for the analytical framework. Several steps will be taken to facilitate genre analysis of research articles granted under Basic Education Research Fund. So the first step is gathering the corpus, or in the first step in gathering the corpus is to look for the copy of the completed research paper from birth cycle 1 to birth cycle 5. Then research articles shall be categorized, as what I have stated earlier, into basic and action research and further subcategorized in varied research themes. So the second step was to select the research article from the birth research. Then the third is categorizing and labeling selected completed research papers to be subjected to the analysis stage. So the corpus will be analyzed using the chosen framework, and that's the next step. And finally, the output study will be developed, which will serve as a framework for writing research proposals and birth completed papers. So for the discussion or for the iteration of the instrumentation to be used will be from the different frameworks that I have mentioned in theoretical framework. So from Harjanto's abstract frameworks, Wales introduction framework, Wan's literature review framework, Lim's methodology frameworks, Wales and Fick's discussion framework, and Young and Allison's conclusion framework. So the researcher will either analyze the corpora if a software will be available, or will be analyzing it manually if time permits, so whichever is applicable. So here, I plan to use software application called AntMover upon availability. So the software is a text structure analyzer that works automatically. So when I will be opening the text or a file in the AntMover, it is automatically imported into the application for analysis. Then the procedure for data analysis used in specific areas of articles will be studied, interpreted based on the move analysis, in this study to determine the rhetorical moves of the research papers. As what I have stated earlier, abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, discussion, and conclusion sections. So the identification of rhetorical move is carried out in the stage by underlining the usual traits, selected words, statements, or phrase, or the move element. So following the selection, each section of the research paper will be examined in terms of move frequency and distribution. Is it okay po? I will just charge po my laptop. Thank you so much po. Okay po, I will just charge po my my laptop. Okay po, so to continue. Okay, so the procedure of data analysis used in specific areas of the article will be studied and interpreted based on the move analysis, yes. And following the selection, each section of the research paper will be examined in terms of move frequency and distribution of move patterns among pegs. So thus, each section will recognize and classify the occurrence of moves. So the total number of movements will be calculated for each text and theme. And if possible, I will be asking for help when it comes to reliability metric on how I will be using this to test the reliability. So both researcher will independently assess the moves and confirm their findings. So I will be asking for the assistance of language experts for this. So the study shall seek assistance from my proposal is 3 intercoders who may help me with coding the corpus analysis. So the 3 intercoders are regarded as experts in linguistic research, particularly in the areas of genre analysis. So the proposed or the prospect intercoders shall be holders of doctorate of philosophy in English, and as a result, they were qualified to ratify and validate the study's findings. So they will be given copies of the research purpose as their coding basis, and several stages will be involved. So to reiterate, the researcher will compare her analysis and the analysis of the intercoder. So the reliability rate shall be at least 95%, and conflicts will be addressed by comparing moves and addressing discrepancy. So if there would be a disagreement about the distinguish or specific move in a sentence, both the rater, so that's the researcher, the intercoders, would talk about it and come up with an agreement until arriving to the actual or the tabular presentation of the results. So to continue, here's my conceptual framework. It shows, the figure shows the concepts under study. So the primary framework that supports all literature and studies mentioned in this research were based on the researchers' readings. Primarily, it's from Swales, 1981, 1990, and 1998, as well as Batia, 1984, 1993, 2004, 2008, and 2010. So aside from those, so I have, or additionally, the book Academic Writing for Graduate Students, third edition, Essential Skills and Tasks by John Swales and Kristen Creek, published 2012, if I'm not mistaken, also inspired me to work with this concept on how research writing can be done using varied framework. So locally, the study was also inspired by the works of Mercado 2006, on cognitive structuring of research articles in Philippine setting. So knowing that the paper is in depth and context, as Mercado 2006 suggested that he suggested that Filipino writers should do more studies in contribution to the field of genre analysis. So the concept of the study also considers the research management guidelines set by the Department of Education in the grant of basic education research fund. So the researcher wanted to find out how the different aspects such as rhetoric moves, meta discourse markers, and communicative intent will be applied in research-funded papers in the Department of Education using the chosen framework mentioned earlier. So as also shown on the figure, birth completed research will be classified into action and basic research, as stated on my figure here. This will further be classified into research themes. As you can see, theme 1, teaching and learning. Theme 2, child protection. Theme 3, governance. Theme 4, human resource development. And cross-cutting themes of disaster risk reduction and management, gender and development, and inclusive education. So genre analysis of the move of the different sections of birth research paper will be done using the framework I have mentioned: Harjanto's abstracts, Wales introduction, Kwan's literature review, Lim's methodologies, Wales and Fick's discussion, and Yang and Allison's conclusion framework. So finally, the researcher wanted to produce the research framework for basic education research fund action and basic research. So once again, this is Ms. Jennifer M. Uestar with my dissertation proposal, Decoding Communicative Intent, Rhetoric Moves, and Meta-Discourse in Depth Ed Funded Research Paper. So heartfelt thanks to my panelists, Dr. Regan C. Condes, Dr. Luis Miguel P. Saludes, Dr. Amelita O. Balagtas, Dr. Claudia Odette J. Ayala, and Dr. Benilda Billian. So, and to my research advisor, Dr. Felix Berto M. Mercado, and to Ms. Princess for the assistance.